Good. Okay, we're recording.
Live.
This is a bit different. We're not used to being on the videos. So we'll guess for anyone that is watching, why are we doing this video?
Well, I mean, welcome to the Liveration EXTRA channel, I suppose.
Yeah, we're just gonna put some extra footage on here and just, I guess, have a bit more fun with this channel. Don't know where it's gonna go or what we're gonna put out there yet, but maybe some, behind the scenes or just some calls like we're doing with Paul today. So yeah, this will be the first video.
So the most recent video that we put out with Paul, there's just been loads of comments on it about planning permission and other things, and Paul left his email on there as well, and his inbox has just been flooded with loads of questions and messages. So
hundreds, he said.
Yeah, so since we put that video out, Paul basically gives a message and just suggested maybe instead of answering all the same questions in his inbox 100 different times, we can just make a video to answer some questions. And we've been thinking about doing like some extra stuff anyway, you know, just for stuff that maybe doesn't fit the main channel. But yeah, so there we go. Welcome to Liveration Extra, the first video. We're going to meet up with Paul. Yeah, we'll just wait for Paul to join us. And the video that we'll reference as well, we'll put in the link in this description. So if you haven't checked it out, you can go and check it out.
Yeah, and we'll hopefully get all those questions answered.
Yeah, and for anyone also who doesn't know who we are, we're twins. I'm Ryan. That's Sophie, and we basically
we run the channel. We do it all, filming together, editing. We both edit different episodes, so
and the main channel is like kind of getting an insight and an overview into people's lives who are living alternatively. So van life, off-grid stuff, tiny homes, boats, and more. Pretty much. Cool.
Yeah, so we'll just wait for Paul, so and we can just put it there, can't we?
Yeah. Can I press accept then, or?
No, it's saying only 2 people are in the call at the moment.
Oh no.
Oh, here he is.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
I was just trying to find somewhere to sit.
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
How's it going, Paul?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hang on, I've forgotten my notepad.
Oh, he's prepared. He's come prepared.
Bloody hell.
So I'm thinking maybe, Paul, should we tilt your phone the other way?
I think it might be all right.
And then, oh yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Oh, hang on. Cutting off the head. This is my son's old iPad, because I don't have a smartphone. This is really organised, isn't it?
No, listen.
This is how it is, casual.
It is
casual
how it is. That's it. No, that's perfect now.
Well,
but yeah, how are you doing, Paul?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, you guys all right?
Yes, we're all good, thanks.
Good, thanks for joining us on a late Sunday evening.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Outside already.
Oh, yeah, it's getting that way, isn't it?
Good. So I guess I mean we've kind of just explained to people who are tuning in now like why we're doing this call. So obviously we'll just explain. We put out your video and we just got so many comments and so many questions, and obviously we left your email, didn't we?
Yep.
And you just got inundated.
Yeah, I'm not really very big on the internet, so I don't have a smartphone or anything, so I check my emails maybe once every couple of days, and like my inbox was just massively full, and there's no way I could reply to everyone. I did try a little bit, but I thought it would be easier to do something like this.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. We were thinking about it for a while anyway. We were thinking, it'd be great to kind of do an extra channel like this where we can put content like this out there. And then we were literally just talking about it and you called us to suggest it. So I was like, yes, let's do it. Now's the time.
Yeah, cool. So I just want to ask before we kick it off, Paul, what did you think of the video after?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it had been a while, innit? I can't remember when we filmed it exactly. Like end of March, something like that, was it?
It was a while, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a long while. So I'd kind of like forgotten all the stuff I'd said and was bricking it a little bit about making a fool of myself. But yeah, no, it was really good. Really liked it. Yeah, and yeah, the place has changed a lot since, and you know, the seasons swing around, so everything
Yeah.
looked good 5 minutes. So yeah, it was nice. Yeah, good job.
Very nice.
Cool,
So
yeah.
what has changed there then since we
So I suppose like a lot of the stock has come and gone. That little white dog that was in the
oh
yeah, so he passed away. He had heart failure. He's really old anyway. So it was nice to see him again. Crumble, the little goat that was living in the house, she's gone off with her mum to a nice little farm up country somewhere. And I think they went to a country show this last couple of weeks and won best in show. So that was really good. So yeah, it's just like a reminder of little bits and pieces that have happened and yeah, changed. We lost, yeah, sadly, like we lost a really good neighbour that was, yeah, he wasn't that old. He's in his 70s, but he's the guy that came down with his digger, helped us build our house and like put in the track, and just me and him just worked together a lot through this. And yeah, he kind of comes down every day for a cup of tea, but he passed away as well a month ago. So it's kind of nice to see all his hard work and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Moving on in the valley, and it reminds you really, but it's cool. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, no, it has been a while since we were there. But is that's you? That's because we kind of we usually take like a week off work because we still work full time, obviously, and basically try and get like 7 videos filmed, and then we'll just we'll just edit it up in our spare time and that basically. So yeah, it does take a while, but
Yeah.
Yeah, good. All right then. So I mean, have you come prepared with a notebook then, Paul?
Oh, only mildly. Obviously, there was a lot of questions about planning.
Yeah, we were thinking yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
we'll get on to planning in a bit.
it's like it's a whole video on its own, isn't it? Really, the planning. And we can, like, as far as planning is concerned, I can literally only comment on my experience of it and how we did it. And obviously we're talking like 6 years ago now since we moved here, or nearly 7 years ago since we moved here. So like I don't even know how things have changed planning wise or whatever. But basically I think like we'll start from the very beginning, because there are a lot of people that were like that. I know there was comments. I didn't read all the comments because like I really appreciate all the really nice comments and the healthy comments, and there's the odd negative one. And I think one of the things people were kind of getting at was financially, how did we afford it? We managed to pull out 140 grand to buy the land, so we obviously, how are we living in a house and struggling to pay bills if we were able to pull that sort of money out of nowhere to buy the land? Although like it's not really anyone's business where money or anything comes from, but essentially what happened with us was so we were, when we first got married, I was like, I'd always lived in this area and I grew up in the parish where we built this house now. So like well rooted in the area. Gemma's from away. And my dad was a builder, and I worked full time with my dad for like the first kind of 10 years after leaving school till I was kind of like 28. And I was an army reservist for the whole time as well. So like I was a decade in the army reserves. So I was either here at work or like also spending quite a lot of time away from the area. But yeah, well rooted in the community. But we lost my dad really, really suddenly to suicide. And that was a big shock. So meeting Gemma, everything was like in a bit of turmoil because life had changed. There was loads of life changes. I'd lost my job, lost my dad, kind of came out of the army reserves. And financially, we were able to, we had a choice to make, really. We had enough money, that we'd saved and help from parents and bits and pieces. We could either buy a really, really cheap house, that was, in a derelict state, or we could use the money that we kind of gathered together to as like a down payment or what a deposit, and then get a mortgage on something that was already done and already up and running. And I think because we were just sort of starting out business wise with the antiques and various other bits and pieces I was doing, we weren't in a position to be able to get a mortgage. So we bought literally the cheapest house in the whole town. There were caravans for sale for more money than the house that we bought, and it was tiny. There was no garden. Well, there was a back courtyard that was as big as my kitchen table. No parking, and the whole place, like top to bottom, the whole top floor needed ripping out, rechanging, and all that. So we bought that, and then while I was working, Gemma was like doing up the house. So I was going out and earning money, and any money we earned, we were using to renovate the house slowly. Like we did it over 5 years, and that then managed to make the property worth a lot more than what it was when we bought it. And then when we saw this land, that was when so we put the house on the market, borrowed money against the house to buy the land. And then when we bought the land, and then eventually, like 6 months later, the house sold, we managed to then pay off the loan for buying the land, and then had a little bit left over. So that was how we managed to buy the land. And that was why when we were living in the house, we were always struggling with bills, because we were literally like, any money we earned was going into doing up the house. So like as soon as a bill came along, it just financially was quite difficult. So that's how.
So obviously you like renovated the house, you made money on the house, also inflation as well. The houses are worth a lot more, so that's how you kind of like got the money to be able to do that, as well as not being able to really like afford the bills, like you say. People like, there was a few comments, people couldn't really get that, they couldn't understand how.
Like now when we look at it, like it looks like, there's that guy sat there in his big house surrounded by all his land and everything like that. But like we're not. I am. It drives my family mental. I am really tight, like super tight. Like all my clothes come from charity shops. Our car, when we go to the beach and we're like parked in the car park, like I'm pulling off a surfboard off the roof, which is got to be at least 25 years old. And the car is like, it's a 15-year-old estate car that we ferry goats about in the boot of, it's but and when
me, Paul.
On the way to the beach, like there's a garage next to the Marine Barracks where they sell camper vans, and the camper vans, honestly, we laugh, the camper vans cost more than what it cost to build our house for a camper van. So we are tight, and like think about our wedding. When we got married, I know people that still not got a house, still not got, still really struggling to get on the property market, but then they spend 20-30 grand on a wedding. Like we went to a registry office and then went to the pub and then got a taxi home. That was our wedding. Like we spend money very, very carefully, which is how we kind of managed to do what we've done. So that's like the money side of it.
Because that was quite a common question, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it's a barrier. It's just one of the barriers to entry to kind of living that way, isn't it? And it's just like anyway, just buying a house or that. It's just one of the.
On this journey, we're going back 50. Because if we turn back like the 6-7 years we've been here, plus then the 5 years you're going back like 12 years ago. 12 years ago, things were totally different. Pre-COVID and all that sort of stuff. Prices. I think the house, like one of the little houses in town now, is like twice the price of when we sold it. It's twice the price now. It's just, things have just gone mental. So it was a different time financially.
It's one of the reasons everyone's living in vans.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so Paul, then should we just go into your story a little bit more then, about, because there wasn't too much in the video about you living in the caravan. So if we just go back to that, you bought this land then, and there was a small caravan where the owner of the land was living, and that's where you lived for a couple of years, was it? Yeah.
So when we bought the land was for sale, and it was like the land and the business. So you know, the guy that was,
business.
so the guy that was living here before, he had gate. So he'd basically done the groundwork and got temporary permission for the land. So to get temporary permission lasts for 3 years, and it means you can live on your land in a caravan. And to get that is like that's generally the hardest first hurdle. And to get that, you have to have a business on the land with a functional need to be there, which means you need to be there. You need to live there for a certain reason. And one of the common reasons used to be, I don't know if it still is, one of the common reasons people used to use was charcoal. So when you're making barbecue, kiln is super hot, and it burns like at ridiculous temperatures, and the burn takes basically 24 hours. So you have to be on site 24 hours a day because you can't leave it for safety reasons, which means if you're running a charcoal business and you're doing burn after burn after burn, you have to live there. So he built a charcoal business up, and he was wanting to move on, moving on. So he was selling the land with the business. So we came in, I think we had 18 months of the temporary permission left. And obviously at the end of the 18 months, or the end of the 3 years in total, they'll assess your books, they'll assess your business plan, they'll assess everything to make sure that it's a productive business that's earning, good money, and that, so it's worthwhile you being there. So we started off, I think it was mega hard. It was a mobile home, so it was a pretty big mobile home, and it had a log burner in it. It had one bedroom and like a bedroom for my stepdaughter, but it was a cupboard. So Gemma and my son had the little bedroom. My stepdaughter slept in a cupboard, and then I slept on the sofa next to the wood burner, like the built-in sofa on the wood next to the wood burner with the dogs for 2 years. We had a composting toilet, so there was like a toilet inside the caravan that just had a box under it, and then we also had a long drop outside. And we had spring water going down to that caravan, and we had 12-volt solar systems, so you could just kind of charge your mobile phone and stuff, and a couple of LED lights. But it was like, and it was down at the bottom of the hill. There was no track, no hard standing. It was just mud to get to it. And
the journey isn't as lucrative as it seems.
That was pretty bad. Like, I was waking up in the night and all you could hear underneath the caravan was rats, and it was like, it was pretty basic. And the fire, I think the caravan was so thin that one night in the winter it was like -7, and as soon the caravan would be like 30 degrees when the fire was on, but then as soon as you fell asleep 2 hours later you're down to -7 on the inside of the caravan. And you got 2 kids and everything else. Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. So we went through 2 years of that, and then came our time to basically apply for planning permission again, because the temporary permission runs out. So I think initially the planners, we started off on really good we kept on really good terms with the planning authority, like the planning officer. I didn't see any point in starting off negatively, there's no point. So I know the first few phone calls we had, she was kind of saying that we needed to, because we'd only personally been there for 18 months, we needed to do the 3 years. So she was saying they were going to grant us another 3 years to stay in that caravan, to keep the business going, prove that we can do it ourselves. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, worst case scenario, we'll do that. But like, I still want to put full permission for the house just to see how we go. And she's, well, you know, you won't get it, but you know, you can try. And so I invited her around for a cup of tea and biscuits, and just kind of like
sweeten her up.
yeah, it's really nice. We walked around the woods, and I showed her the caravan. She could see that the roof was really leaking, and I explained to her, you know, that we got a very, very small budget for the house, and the caravan's falling apart. So like, I either had to buy a new caravan, which would kind of eat into the money for the house we were going to buy, or I was going to have to like build a log cabin or something that was temporary for us to live in, but that would mean that we weren't able to ever build the house. So like, I'd just have to get full planning on the log cabin or something, which they weren't that keen on. They like to see something proper, like a proper house and stuff. So eventually, I think they just sort of thought, well, you know, these guys, they're going to be here for, you know, they're going to be here for 3 years if we don't give them permission, and then we're going to give them permission anyway. And they were just like, well, yeah, okay, build the house, go for it. So when we built the house, you know, that was a good day as well. I think we wrote a really nice like thank you card to the planning department, and the kids and everything signed it. So it is good to start off on good terms with the planning authority, because you know whatever you think of them, you don't want them as enemies. You don't want them not liking you.
And it probably helps, do you think, Paul? Because I know that you mentioned it when we were there last time, like, because you are a local lad, do you think that helps? I remember you saying like you went in to see them and you had all like your farmer outfit on, and
So yeah, it definitely like played a game. Just it is a game. Like, it's high risk. So when we bought this, I know we paid 140 grand for it, and it's like 15 acres at the time. That was well over the odds for what the land was worth. So because we were buying a business and stuff as well, you know, we wanted to live here. But if we hadn't have worked as hard as we did and built the business to a point where they'd allow us to build the house, they could have just said, no, off you go. And then all you've got is the land, which is worth less than you paid for it, which puts you back, you know, back to not having enough and having to buy a house and mortgage or something again, you know. So it was high risk. So yeah.
so it was just really all in the hands of that woman, wasn't it? I know it could have gone either way.
You're at their mercy, really. But what I will say is, like, I think you get so with YouTube and social media and stuff like that, you get like a bit of an unfair view of what it's like, or like, not what it's like to live off grid, but like how hard it is to live off grid. Because I know a lot of people that have bought 2-3 acres of land for, like, I've got a good friend, very, very good friend, who's bought 2 acres of land. He bought it 3 years ago. He's been living on it for 2 years. Completely, he's built himself. He's dug a well. He's built tracks. He's got a shed. He's living there. He's not keeping it secret from the neighbours. They all know he's there. They're all on good terms. He wasn't a local in the area, and he's never applied for any permission, never been given any letters. I know people that have lived in a house or like a cabin that they built 10 years ago. I know someone that's living in a cabin that's been there since I was probably 15, and they've never had any problem, because they've never applied, but also no one has ever reported them, because they're like embedded in the local community and steps that are there. And there's a lot of people that do that as well. Like, community is massively important. Like, no matter how good your land is, if you don't get on with your neighbours and you're trying to kind of sneak under the radar or something, then
I know it's a dream for a lot of people, like including myself, to buy a bit of land and just build something and live off grid. But like, the planning permission is like, as well as the money, the planning permission is like one of the biggest things standing in the way. Like, you just kind of can't legally do it in a lot of cases, and it's unfortunate. But like, from meeting loads of people doing the channel and that, Like we know a lot of people who've are just doing it under the radar, but it's a risk to take, isn't it? If you're going to buy some land and that, it's like,
It's a massive risk.
I don't think
It,
most people will be comfortable taking that risk
no,
because they know that the council or whatever can just come along and say, right, you've got to go in 28 days or whatever.
I think it probably did us a favour that I don't think we were. I think we've both been through so much over that sort of period of time that neither of us were in our right minds when we bought the place anyway. So that probably helped.
Yeah.
Like if I was thinking today, I was walking up to see the sheep today, and I thought, if we both knew how much it was going to entail, would we still do it now? Like would we do it again if we had to think back to all those times, like living in the caravan and sleepless nights lying in this caravan with rats running around underneath, and like go down to the toilet in the pitch black in the middle of nowhere, and still not knowing whether we were ever going to be able to call the place home or not? Would we ever go back and do it again? And I honestly don't know. I think we'd toss a coin, because it was hard, real hard work. And now, so the house was so in the end, the permission we got was for a rural workers dwelling. So it's not just like a house that can just be sold. The house is agriculturally tied to the land, which means you can't sell any of the land without the house. If you were ever to put it on the market, it would have to be sold to someone working within agriculture or forestry. And technically, either myself or Gemma have to be employed within agriculture or forestry to live here. I think, I don't know how often it's checked up on or whatever, but we both do anyway, because Gemma teaches at a farm school and I work in forestry, and we've got our own livestock. I think the worry, like with planners, is always, when we bought this land, people saw me, with a background in building. The planners sort of, that everyone's main aim is money, isn't it? So literally everyone thought, oh, they're going to do this, they're going to build the house, they're going to do the charcoal, build the house, and then as soon as they've done all that, they'll flog it for a massive profit and move on to the next one. And that's really not what we wanted to do. Like, we're still, other than the charcoal, which we've kind of knocked on the head now for health reasons, because it's actually like really quite bad for you using the ring kiln. Other than that, we're still doing exactly what we said we were going to do: forestry work, hedge laying, livestock. So we are like, we've done what we said we were going to do. We weren't trying to pull the wool over their eyes. So the house is a rural workers dwelling, and it's tied, as an agricultural property. So, which I think is pretty good, really, because it stops you being able to just like flog it to someone who's going to use it as a holiday home or put it on and something like that. It just keeps it real. There's 2 or 3 abandoned, like fallen down farm cottages within a mile of it that would have been 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, there would have been agricultural workers living in them, and now they're not there. So there is a need for property in the countryside as well. So don't look at that, but that's the planning story.
Yeah, so that one up, because there was so many comments. It was all about planning. How on earth did he get planning for that? So
I don't know what your like expertise is on like the subject, the broader subject, but what would you say to
in anything?
Fair enough. What would you say though, Paul, to like other people who are looking at it and thinking like, I'd like to do that? Like, how would you say to go about it? Like, how is it possible to do it? Do you have to do it under the radar, or?
It's difficult. Like, situation dictates, doesn't it? This we never had a dream of living off grid, and it's funny, like, really saying off grid, because so nearly all of our neighbours are off grid with water. Everyone's got spring. A couple of them have still only got generators, because some of them are not connected to the electric either. But as far as anyone wanting to do this like this wasn't our plan, so it's difficult to know really, because we didn't like go into it like desperately trying to find a piece of land or anything like that. This all just sort of happened. But I think like you really have to do your homework and get everything kind of sussed, so you know what your risks are, you know what you kind of what the deal is with like achieving permission if you need to get it, what functional needs you need to go for, and stuff like that. And there's a really good book called the I think it's the Rural Planning Handbook, and they keep doing a new one, like they keep updating it. And in there, like there's all the different rules and regulations and things that you need to do if you're going to live on your own land. And I think one of the first things that anyone says is, if your plan is to live on a piece of land and you buy a piece of land, the first thing to do is move on. Because if you apply before you move on, they can stop you moving on. But if you move on and then apply, then they have to like start an application to remove you, and then that's when you can fight it. Don't quote me on that, but that book, Rural Planner's Handbook, Rural Planning Handbook, is a really, really good book. It was a lifesaver for us. Gemma, I think when we were doing our planning application, Gemma went through literally, I didn't do any of it. I'm just a labourer. Gemma's the brain of this. She went through like literally hundreds and hundreds of other people's planning applications up and down the country, looking at where they went wrong, where they went right, and like working out just so that ours was absolutely watertight. So that when we did go to the planners, every box they needed to tick was ticked. And if every box they ask you to tick is ticked, then they can't say no. But you know, I suppose like if you can go under the radar, the longer you're under the radar, the better. You know, I'm saying that, but that's not from experience, because we didn't have the option of going under the radar because it was already.
And what's the do you know about is it like the 4-year rule or the 6-year rule or something? I don't really.
All sorts of things like that, and I think a lot of that is changing as well. Like there was the 4-year rule, so if you lived somewhere in an unconcealed house and it had foundations and various other bits and pieces, and it was undiscovered, unlike reported for 4 years, then you'd pass that period of time and you could live their life. Like I've heard rumours that they're changing it to 10 years now. And then there's a 10-year rule for somewhere that's got wheels. So like if you live in a mobile home on a site for 10 years and no one reports you, then you can get away with it that way. But it's difficult. Like
why do you think they make it difficult?
Well, I don't know, money, innit, I suppose. It's got to be, innit?
Well, you're not. If you're not paying bills, you're not being taxed on the bills and everything else.
Well, so this is the thing. Like, I had a friend who had been living on a property for. He'd been living off grid in like a shed for 10 years or so, and he spoke to a friend, another chap we know who's a planning advisor. He's like, I want to make it better. I want to do something proper. So I might just tell him now that I've been living there this whole time, and then I'll just get permission to build a house. And he's like, yeah, but if you tell them you've been living there for 10 years without paying council tax, they're going to back it. Like 10 years of council tax to pay. So, what do you do? Like,
yeah, Paul, that was another question that was asked quite a lot on the comments. I don't know if you got this through emails, but it was a lot about basically council tax, wastewater. I think there's a few things that
planning permission, and also how much of a great neighbour Paul seems to be.
Yeah.
So what was the first one?
Yeah, so council tax and wastewater.
Yeah, we paid council tax, paid council tax right the way through, because the caravan was as soon as you get temporary permission, it's classed as a standalone property in the countryside. So you pay, I can't remember what council tax band we're on here, but it's over £200 a month council tax. And we did, so like when we built the house, I kept the mobile home for a little while, and we were kind of using it for people that wanted to come here and do a bit of work, and I was using it as a bit of a pub with friends and stuff. And then we got a letter to say that did we still have the mobile home? And I was, yeah, we still got the mobile home, but we're not using it. And so they started charging this council tax on the house and the mobile home because they said it counted as a second home.
God, anything to get a bit more money off you, isn't it?
So we had to move it. Yeah, so we moved it because we didn't want to pay for it as if it was a holiday home as well. Like it's 100 yards down. We couldn't wait to get out of there. We're going on holiday in it.
Okay, so you pay council tax and you paid that the whole way through, and so bins, you get bins with that, and also what happens with the wastewater then and your grey water and things?
Same as everyone around here. You've got we've got a sewage treatment plant, which is what they told us we had to put in. Before that, like I said, it was a composting loo, but yeah, I mean, no one around here. There's no mains water around here, let alone main sewage. So everyone's either got septic tanks or sewage treatment plants. So I know a couple of people have got the reed bed system. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard out in the countryside that you don't have main sewage anyway. So it all either gets collected and taken away, or a sewage treatment plant into a reed bed. Yeah, that's what we've got. So.
Interesting. What about the seeing a few comments about, I mean, don't have to go into major detail, but like the construction of the house, like you built it in what, like a few months?
So yeah, we built the house. So a really good friend of mine was here just as COVID was starting up. We were building, we're putting an extension on the barn, so putting an extra 2 bays on the barn for hay. And he was set to go and do a load of other work somewhere else. And we were kind of like looking at all different ways to build the house, like looking at firms that could build it in a factory and put it on lorries and bring it here, or like getting prices from people that would just, do it with oak and stuff like that. And it was all just like totally out of my price range, completely mental. So he got all his work cancelled for COVID, and I just said to him, I said, like, have you ever built a house before? He said no. And I was like, do you reckon we could build our house? And he's like, yeah, we could probably manage between the two of us. So yeah, he, like, a friend of mine drew the plans for us, and we paid him to do the plans. And then I basically employed Richard, who I've known since before primary school. I employed him for the 6 months, and he basically built the whole place in the back field in panels, while me and the old chap that I said passed away recently, me and him did the foundations and all the groundworks and everything else while he was building the panels. And then all three of us, with some help from mates and stuff, lifted it all into place, nailed it all together. Yeah, and then like the Sparky that came in and did all the solar and everything else is another chap I went to school with. I paid them all. Like it wasn't just them doing it as favours; they all got paid. But I think the fact that Gemma, so when we moved in, Gemma's reminded me today when we last. She said it was like moving into a hobnob because everything was just made out of OS. Just everywhere we looked was just this hobnob colour. And Gemma's done all the interior bits and pieces, all the painting. She's done all the fitting, the kitchens, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's been a real.
So what is it? What is the panel?
It is, so the house, I have to remember now. So we've got, it's 4x2 timber with 4-inch Celotex in between it, and then on the inside it's got the OSB. Then on the outside, it's wrapped with OSB again, so it's sandwiched. And then on top of that, we've got a breathable membrane. Then there's a counterbatten. Then there's another 2 inches of Celotex insulation, which we bought really cheap. 2 Arctic loads of stuff came across. I think it was from Ireland. That came across in 2 massive lorries, and then it's wrapped with just some tannalized timber around the outside, So yeah,
Sound.
exactly. But yeah, I think it's 2 lots of insulation, 2 breathable membrane, and then a load of batten and some timber on the outside. Yeah.
Cool.
And just like that, you've got a house.
Yeah, it was. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a hard 6 months. It was a slog, and I was working. You know, we were still doing the charcoal. We were still doing the hedge laying. We were still doing all the animals, and the kids were still going to school, and we were still living in the caravan. So it was a slog, but you know, we had it done for winter, and we moved into our hobnob, ready for winter.
All right, and what about? I don't know if you were happy to share this or not, but what about like the cost of the build? Like, if you put a figure on it?
Yeah, we never actually properly worked it out. We just it was around about. So I think in total, since we moved here, in 6 years, we've spent 80 grand as like evaporated, and that is the house and the barns and the shed. So that in total was about 80 grand, which, you know, is a shitload of money, and it's a scary amount of money. But you know, I've got people I know. I work for people that spend that more than that on a car.
Yeah.
So it depends where you're coming from as far as money's concerned. That is like, for me, yeah, we had to borrow a bit for that, and we had to we had to really tighten our belts for a long period of time. Don't forget, like, when you're living in a caravan, you've got no bills other than the council tax. We were growing pretty much all our food and everything here at the time as well, and working like mad. So we were kind of, and I was doing the antiques still then as well. So like we were kind of earning and going along as we, you know, doing what we could do to. But we did manage it. But you know, I don't know. People are going to say, "Oh, you manage with all that money," and it's, to me, you know, yeah, we're really lucky to have been able to do it. But at the same time, yeah, we could have borrowed. You know, it's endless what you could spend on a place like that, and we've just tried to do it literally as cheap as we possibly can, because, you know, like I said in the main video, time to me is more important. I wanted to get this done and dusted so that I can then go and enjoy the time with the kids and stuff like that. And it's and I don't know how long a building like this lasts, you know, but
We'll find out.
That'll be my lot. So
Sound.
Brilliant. Okay, so go on then, Ryan. Have we got any?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, along with a few other people. Do you actually take your spring water and drink that at weddings?
Yeah. So that was only one wedding.
Right.
But realistically, I think I've been away from here nearly 7 years we've been here. I've spent, I think, about 4, maybe 5 nights away from here. So, and in those period of times, like, most of those have been in a tent, so I would have taken my own water anyway. But yeah, the one time that we went to stay somewhere proper, I did water with me, yeah. Although I am drinking water from my mum's at the moment, because the spring has finally run dry this year.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, but it'll pick back up again soon. It's just always like when the grass is growing like mad in the fields above it, it gets really slow, and then eventually it just stops, and then in a couple of weeks it'll pick back up again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there was a question as well. Like, do the pipes not freeze in winter?
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
they do.
So there was one time when you have to be careful. There's loads of different ways. So you can run out of water when frogs get a habit of getting stuck in the pipe up in the woods. That was in the video. Also, if you have a really large downpour, you think, oh, great, loads of water, but a really large downpour washes loads of crap into the tank and will block it. And then you run out of water because you've not checked it for a couple of weeks. And then there was another time when I was going up and it was like really freezing cold. And I was checking the water to make sure we kept having water. I kept lifting the lid, and yeah, the ball cock was there, and I could see the water on top. And then eventually the pipe, all the water stopped, and I thought, oh, the pipes must have frozen. Checked all the pipes, couldn't see it, they were frozen anywhere. Went and looked in the tank, and it was still full of water, and I tapped it, and all the ice broke, and there was just like a layer of ice on top, and no water underneath. So we completely ran out of water that time as well. But yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, it ain't foolproof. Yeah, the pipes in the woods, the pipes in the woods never freeze, but they do freeze in places where they're not very deep underground out in the field. And where it comes into the house, it will freeze there as well. So like I'll go out and wrap dumpers around it in the winter, just to.
The realities of living off grid, I suppose, isn't it? There's a few people that say like, "Oh, if I was 20 years younger, I'd do this." Like, do you have to be? Do you think young and fit? Is it like quite a more physically demanding to live that way?
So it depends really. Like we heat, the whole house is heated with firewood. We don't have any radiators or anything like that. We've just literally just got the wood burner for heat. So if you were buying firewood to heat your house, that would get expensive. So I do, have to cut our own firewood, and I sell firewood as well. So to do that, yeah, you have to be pretty physically fit. And like that was a learning curve as well. I've got scars all over my head where I've made mistakes with freeze and stuff like that. So you got to be fit for that. But the rest of it, like the water, I mean, to live in this house it is not a problem. Like, yeah, you might run out of water, but in England, you're never that far away from water if you do run out. So I don't think anyone's really going to struggle with that unless they're, really struggling physically. But living in the caravan, yeah, that's not for like living off grid in the basic way, like we were when we were in the caravan. That to me, I really enjoyed that period of life. It was wonderful. We cooked outside a lot of the time, and it was really close to nature, and you could kind of you knew what the weather was doing without having to open a window, because you could hear it if it was raining, and you could feel the wind hitting it and stuff like that. That's not for the faint-hearted. And obviously that as well, because there was no insulation. If you're trying to keep a caravan warm in the winter with a log burner, like I was using pretty much what we use here all winter, I was using every sort of 2 weeks in the caravan. So I was using like a truckload of logs to keep the caravan warm, like a truckload a month house warm. So yeah, but no, I don't think age, I don't think age should come into it, but physical ability might do. But like the key for me to happy sort of a life around here is community. So like I used to do social media a bit, and I think that's how I met you guys, but I'm not on any of it anymore. And the reason being is because I kind of I've just got so close to our little community around here that I thought, if the shit hits the fan and anything goes wrong, anything could go wrong in life or in the world or whatever, it's this lot that have got your back. They're the people that are going to be turning up with hot soup if you're ill. They're the people who are going to be bringing a barrel of water if you're really struggling. They're the people that call in when they see that your bins haven't gone out or something like that. It's community that matters, and we all around here, all of our neighbours, we're really close. We all look out for each other. Like today we've got like this little breakfast get together thing where every other Sunday someone cooks breakfast, and all the neighbours all go round to each other's houses and just have a bacon sandwich or European breakfast like that. It's just that is the key to living like this is your neighbours and your community.
Oh, it's nice that you've got that. I think
you've got no need for social media then.
Say again? You've
got no need for social media.
Yeah, no, no, I mean, when I was doing businessy sort of stuff, I thought, especially when I was started off doing the woodland stuff, I thought, because nowadays you get this, when you're on it, you get this idea that if you're not on social media, you don't exist because no one knows who you are. But then when you've been on it for a while, you forget that social media exists, and you just start taking notice of the people around you. And like, I started realizing, you know, well, that job didn't come from social media. That job didn't come from social media. What am I actually getting out of social media? Well, I'm not getting anything business wise out of it. And then I sort of slowly realized that actually just looking at everybody else's perfect little worlds also wasn't doing me any favors. And I didn't want to be showing off my own perfect little world either, because like that just, you know, no one puts the crap bits on it, do they? So yeah, so I thought, yeah, no, I'll sack that one off. And I've enjoyed doing it. I mean, it was difficult anyway because I've had a Nokia for the last 5 years, and I pay £5 a month for that. And the only other thing I've got is this.
Trying to organise a WhatsApp call with Paul was proved difficult.
It's an iPad that my kids had when we lived in the caravan. That's my only other kind of internet access. So yeah, I don't engage with that very much. I kind of like keep it local, keep it
Nice. Yeah, no, I like the point about the community there. I think probably a lot of people are missing that these days, aren't they? But yeah, on a separate note, is there anything kind of in the emails that you got that we haven't touched on? Any?
Yeah, they were all about planning and loopholes and stuff like that. And unfortunately, like I can't offer any easy way around any of it. I mean, people say about charcoal being a loophole. You make 2,500 bags of charcoal in the summer. That's not a loophole. That's like,
yeah,
it's something. It's not a loophole. It's like it is mega hard. Unfortunately, until something happens where the system changes and starts realizing, like, I don't know what the answer is, but you know, they say there's a housing crisis, but then they don't let people live in caravans. You know, I think if people are prepared to kind of do the kind of off-grid self-sufficiency thing, there should be a lot more support there, really. I can understand, like, there's this whole not in my backyard thing, and if you're in like some real pretty little village or some real pretty little part of the countryside, you know, people are going to get annoyed if there's like caravans turning up here, there, and everywhere. But people are going to have to start realizing that generation coming through now, they don't have the ability to be able to do property. And when you can't do property, when you can't get on the property ladder, and like everything is all about your rent and your mortgage, or you know, and there's just no spare money, like life becomes pretty dull, you know, that you just, they don't, it's this, there's no kind of value in time then, is there? And I think until the system changes and you know, it gets a little bit easier for people to buy land and do some good with it, then I don't know what the answer is really.
No,
you know, I know you know, it does hurt when I see some of the comments like, oh yeah, it's all right for you and stuff like that. You know, you've done it, or you're there, or you know, you've had some money to be able to do it, and this, that, and the other. Like, we were lucky. I know we were lucky, but also, you know, it was a hell of a risk, and we've come through now and we're smiling. But like, even since then, it's got harder. You know, you try buying, like, since COVID, you try and buy 3 acres of land somewhere now. You know, it's just mental. Yeah, something's got to change somewhere, really, for people.
Yeah, the balance isn't quite right, I don't think, is it?
No, it's not. Difficult. It is difficult. And like, it's just like that hamster wheel, isn't it? It's how the hell do you get out of it, you know? But I think, like, yeah, it's little things, and it's just spending as much time outdoors as you can, getting involved in sort of getting yourself into a community somewhere, even if it's, you know, visiting it, going to the same place on holiday every year, and kind of getting to know people in the pub and stuff like that. You know, that sort of thing. Like, there's like, by the time a piece of land has gone to the estate agents, forget it. You need to be like keeping your ear to the ground locally and that sort of stuff if you're looking to buy land. And getting to be part of the community somewhere. which is easy said than done, but you know, it's the only way, really, I think.
Interesting. Interesting take. Cool.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, I guess we can, you know, you can only share your experience and what you've learned from your experience, can't you? So, like you say, that there's no like, here's the answer, here's the solution. It's just what you've done. It's your story, and you know, people can take from that, can't they?
I mean, it works for us, and you know, I've known it work in various ways for lots of other people as well. To be honest with you, especially around here, North Devon, I haven't actually heard that many horror stories. I know plenty of people living off grid, you know, some in houses, some in caravans. And I've not heard that many horror stories, you know. I think like a lot of people, if you go all in, it's very difficult for them to kick you out, in a way, because if you've got no other money and no other property, like if you buy 3 acres of land but you still got your house in town that you're renting out, then it's very easy for them to kick you back out because you've got somewhere to go. But if you've literally got nowhere to go, that does make life a lot harder, because technically if you're not on your land, you're homeless. So that I'm sure would make life harder, but I don't know that as a fact, you know. I'm just guessing there, really.
Yeah. I mean, when we've been to the various people that we've met up with, that some of them say like, oh yeah, that person over there, they're off grid, nobody knows they're there, and that person in that field you can see across the way, they're the same, nobody knows they're there, they've been there 10 years and that. So a lot of people do it that way, but it's the risk you take, isn't it, if you're gonna go down that route? But
yeah, and it's finding a bit of land to be on in the first place.
That's it, yeah.
But you could have a nice one in the video, I know, like when I looked out across, I said about my great grandfather, but this little bit of land, it's like 15 acres that we got the field in the woods. When Gemma was doing ancestry, like researching my family history a year ago, we worked out that my great grandfather was a tenant farmer on this field and the woods. So that was 100 years ago. So it was nice to think that, you know, my granddad was farming this land 100 years ago as well. So that was,
yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Almost like it's meant to be, you know.
Maybe.
Definitely. Good. So, okay, then, I mean, before we kind of sign it off, Ryan, is there any other questions that we've kind of got written down there, or?
I think we've covered kind of Paul's experience with planning and a few other bits, and I think, unless you want to add anything, Paul.
No, I can't really think. I think we covered the planning. I don't know whether it's a bit jumbled about all over the place, but I think we got there in the end. Yeah.
I mean, we are. I think we're planning a trip to go and meet with another couple who've gone down the charcoal route, and they're like currently doing that. So
Yeah.
you know, maybe that's hard work, but maybe that's one option that people can look at.
Yeah.
And they're still doing the charcoal business and that, so that'll be an interesting one to go and see.
But if anyone is, the rural planning handbook is a really good tool. That is a Bible for planning planning living off your land, basically. That's
Cool,
what people need to look.
Maybe we can leave a link to that, Soph, in the description.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Where can we get that, Paul? Will it just be?
I don't know, internet probably.
Yeah.
Anywhere, Amazon.
We'll have a look for it and leave a link if we find it.
I don't know how many borrowed our copy, but like we had ours until we got planning permission, and then it's just gone from one person to the next person to the next person. So yeah, there's plenty out there floating about, but yeah.
Sound. All right, so maybe we should call it there. We've been probably about an hour, and thanks for sharing everything with us, Paul, answering some questions. Hopefully it can be helpful to some people and be valuable, and I'm sure there'll still be plenty more questions, but
there's no answers really, is there? That's why it's just your experience, but I'm sure people will be able to take a lot from that.
Everyone's situation is different, isn't it? And that's that, really.
But also thanks for featuring in one of the videos on Liveration. It's got a good response. People liked it, and liked what you had to say and everything. They liked the point as well about becoming the hill.
Yeah.
That was it. That was a nice point, to be fair.
There'll be something in it. Yeah, the more
Yeah.
you can land, yeah.
Cool. All right. So should we leave it there and just thanks for your time,
Yeah.
Paul. Sunday evening.
Take it easy.
Cool.
Cheers.
Yeah. All right. Nice one. Cheers, Paul.
Bye.
See ya. Cool. All right. So
Oh, yeah, well, that was good. I think we could pretty much covered everything there. So, I mean, that was the main point, wasn't it? Planning something about, you know, a lot of them about council tax as well. But I think we got everything in.
yes, good stuff.
Good.
All right. So thanks
See you in the
to
next one.
thanks to everyone watching, tuning in.
How do we do this when it's not scripted?
I know. Yeah. Well, I just hope I mean, it's definitely recording. Just hope the audio's on and that we could have done all that and had no audio, but yeah, should be all right. I think.
We'll see.
Yeah. Keep your eyes out for more Liveration Extra stuff.
Good stuff. All right then.
Sound.
Did
All
it,
right.
bro?
Yeah. See you later.